Now it is my great pleasure to introduce my esteemed friend, talking of good science. Dr. Mark Armitage is coming to take the platform. He has found what has shaken the modern academic world and questioned long ages, deep time. He's going to tell us about finding nerve tissue in dinosaur bones back in the Permian, which is supposed to be around 225 million years old. Somebody has a problem. Would you please welcome Dr. Mark Armitage?
I don't need that. I'm using my laptop. Thank you, Dr. Baugh. David, is my microphone okay? Can you hear me in the back? If you cannot hear me, please raise your hand. Hey, that worked.
It works.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I learned a long time ago that lectures after lunch are difficult. Why? Because lunch starts to eat us. So everybody stand up. Stand up. Stretch. Yes, thank you. Wiggle your bottom. Have a seat. Thank you for doing that. Now, if you weren't here this morning, I encourage you to watch that video. It was taped, and you'll get to see it. We're going to have a completely different presentation today. And while we're waiting for the computer to wake up, I want to mention what we have on the table up here. Now, I have to apologize first because we brought, I don't know, 100 books, 120 books, and they're gone. So I'm sorry about that. We did a...
To raise money to get you more.
Yes, that would be wonderful. We get a special rate of $1 a book when we buy 10,000. So we made an appeal today. I'm going to reach one in here because I do have one with me. We made an appeal today for folks to help us be able to print these 10,000 because we give them away. Now, all is not lost because you can go on our website, distry.org, and you can download the books and email them to friends or print them off and give them away. We want you to give these away. That's why we print them up. So I'm sorry that I don't have copies for you to take home today, but I do have bones up here. It's been a long week, hasn't it, brother? We did a lot of teaching this week. We installed some microscopes, and so if I fall asleep, you'll have to wake me up because I guess I'm the one doing the lecture, right? But we have bones up here that we want you to come up and handle. Now, some of my class has already been up here, right? How'd you like the bones? Are they cool? So you got to come up and handle them. We have Triceratops vertebra. We have Triceratops frill, which is the bone that comes off the skull. We have ribs. And we have a piece of the first bone that got me in trouble and got me fired from California State University in Northridge, and that was a 48-inch long Triceratops horn. So I have a piece of that here today, but I have a story. Can I tell that story? We flew down from Seattle on Monday, I think it was, and I didn't have time to ship this bone. I shipped the rest of them. So I threw this in my backpack, went to the airport, put it on the TSA tray, went through the scanner, right? My bag gets shuttled off down into the area where all the TSA people are. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be here a while. So I waited and waited and waited. And finally, a TSA officer pointed to me. So I had to go around to this area where there was a large plexiglass screen with a little hole down here at the bottom that I could talk to him through. And he came walking up to me and he said, "Sir, are you transporting human remains in your personal luggage?" Do you get the significance of that? His computer scanned this and registered it as human remains, which is illegal to transport. It's against the law, and he was about to arrest me for carrying human remains, and I had to say, "It's a dinosaur bone. Take it out. Handle it. It's really a dinosaur and not a human." I really want to see what his equipment is doing. If his equipment looks at a bone like that, that obviously is not rock, but it's still a bone, and that's the thing we're finding. Most of the bones we work with are not rock. They're still bone. If his machine can do that, I want to go look at his monitor and see what his machine is saying. Well, this morning I didn't get a chance to show this video. It is more appropriate for what we're talking about today. What you are watching is a very tiny fiber. It is a nerve fiber, and I'm stretching it with a pair of fine needle forceps. Now these forceps are so tiny at the edge. This is under about 25x magnification. They're so tiny you can put them right through your finger. They're that sharp. So you really have to be delicate with them. But what I did is I collected this fiber from a Permian bone. And as Dr. Baugh mentioned, these are north of 200 million years, up to 300 million years old. Look at the stretchiness in that fiber. This is a nerve, folks. This is a nerve from Permian, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I didn't get to show that this morning, so I wanted to show it to you today and get it on film. So let me continue then with the presentation. So what we are doing today is talking about the tissues that we have recovered from the Permian. This has not yet been published, so you're the first ones to see this. We're very excited about this, and we intend to go dig for fresh bones, because these bones that we've been working on have been out of the ground for about 2 decades. So if we're finding nerves like that in specimens that are out of the ground for 2 decades, we want to go dig fresh ones. The Dinosaur Soft Tissue Research Institute is a scientific organization. Our goal is to locate, characterize, and publish as much on soft tissue as we can. How many of you folks had heard about dinosaur soft tissue before you walked in the room? That's a good number. I'm really glad to see that, because most people that we talk to, and I talk to everybody, have you heard about dinosaur soft tissue? What? And then I hand them a book. And I tell them, we're finding soft tissues in dinosaur bones. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Nobody has heard about this. This is the best evidence that we have, I think, right now, to question long ages. So as a scientific organization, our goal is to find these, publish them, get it out there. So we give away everything for free. So we encourage you to go to the website, okay, download the books, download the papers. If you have friends that will not believe anything unless it's published in a scientific journal, we're your best friend. So we want you to have these resources, so feel free to go to the website. There's some videos up there also that you can watch. By the way, I want to show you my cool pointer. So you can see our updates. There are free books, Old Stretchy 1 and Old Stretchy 2. Sorry we don't have copies today, but we would appreciate your support because we are a 501c3 organization. Well, I want to do a little bit of review first, because the last time I was here we talked about a paper that we had just accepted for publication. We spoke in August, right? And then it was published in September, also in Microscopy Today. And in that paper, we published our results of blood clots in dinosaur bones. How many of you have heard that there are blood clots in dinosaur bones? Okay, I'm glad you're here today, because you're going to see something new. That video is on our website, and it's on your website, so you can watch that and learn about that work. That was all Triceratops. And so this is a picture of one of those bones. This is a Triceratops. I think this is horn material. And it has been thin sectioned. So we take a bone like this, we put it in a special machine, and it shaves it down to about 1/3 the thickness of a human hair. So it's a very laborious process, but we get it thin enough so that we can examine it under the microscope. Now, you see the bone is kind of brown, yellowish brown here. And this ages over time. Even 100 years in the ground would cause this kind of bone material to kind of darken a little bit, right? But this here is excessive. See all this black stuff? And it's all in the canals. These are blood vessel canals that go through the bone. So you have canals in the bone, And the blood vessels and the veins and the nerves actually travel together inside those canals. This is all clotted blood, folks. It's all clotted blood. And so what we showed was that the blood, which has iron in it, is still present in the canals. This is a bright field picture, so now we're pushing light through that thin section of bone. So this is all light coming from the microscope, and you see how light it is. But this is all black. This is a blood clot. And look at how much of the total volume of the vessel canal is cut off. This is rare, actually, to see this much of an opening in some of these clots. Most of the clots that we find are fully filling that lumen, that opening of the canal. This is what it looks like under a regular bright field microscope. But then we used a special microscope that works with UV light. It's very dangerous for your eyes, so we have to really protect ourselves. But the advantage of the UV light is it makes the iron autofluoresce. What does that mean? Glow, right? All tissue glows if you hit it with a certain energy, a certain wavelength of light. All tissue glows, okay? And so we take advantage of that property and we hit it with UV light, which makes the iron react, autofluoresce, give off its own light. And it does it at a characteristic wavelength. So we know we have iron, and it's right here in the canals. Now, I'm not going to take a long time to talk about it, but there is a theory that iron preserves the soft tissue. How many have heard of that? The iron preservation theory, a couple of you. In any event, it's the big argument that solves the why is the soft tissue still here problem. Yeah, because it's a problem, right? Why is dinosaur soft tissue a problem? Because they're 68 million years old. Make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich next week, put it in the backyard as an experiment, and measure how long it takes for that soft stuff to go away. And you'll get an idea. We know innately, right? Soft tissue doesn't last. So it kind of begs the question of age, doesn't it? So this is then the work that we published in Microscopy Today in September. We found it in the horn, the rib, and the frill. And in fact, it was 6 individuals that were separated from each other in the digs who had clots, all triceratops. Well, we've done more work of that on that, and I'll show you that in a second. But I've discussed a little bit of the significance of why this is important. There's a medical condition that you may have heard of called disseminated intravascular coagulation. Who would repeat that to me? No takers, right? It's hard. It's a known medical condition in the medical literature that happens when a human drowns. Wow. When there's a human drowning victim. When they die through drowning, their blood stays clotted in their soft tissue and in their bones. You get clotted blood when you die from asphyxiation in water. If you survive and you're revived in the ER, which happens a lot, you bleed out. Why? Well, there's this process of coagulation that you've heard about. It's a one-way reaction. It's dependent on the reactants. When clotting begins, it's a one-way reaction. It goes till all the reactants are gone. And if you die, you stay in that condition. If you survive, it starts to go backwards, and instead of clotting, you bleed out. So now these ER physicians and nurses are trying to save your life while you're bleeding out because they resuscitated you as a drowning victim. These guys weren't resuscitated. So their bones are full of clots. This is important because the clots sequester the iron from what are called Fenton reactions. Don't worry, I'm not going to do chemistry on you today. Picture Pac-Man running around eating those pellets. Fenton reactions needs water to create the Pac-Man that go and eat the tissue. And boy, does it eat the tissue. How many of you had a steel bumper in Detroit during the winter in the past? You know what I'm talking about. Iron eats the steel. Imagine what it does to soft tissue. And it is highly destructive. So we're showing that the iron is left in the canals. It didn't migrate out of the canal into the bone. Right? You can see that, can't you? So the iron was unavailable, and if these vessel canals are clotted up and blocked, the water is not available. Water is required for Fenton reactions. So we think we have a great answer to this iron experiment that I wish I had the time really to talk about the experiment, because it is really not the kind of experiment you'd want to conduct to prove that iron is the answer. Everybody's acting like iron is the answer, but they haven't proven it. In fact, the structures that I am going to show you today, that nerve that you just saw, iron doesn't affect it. So it's hard to explain this iron experiment based on the findings that we're making. So we think we're making headway scientifically, and we think that's important. Why do I mention all that? Because we decided to process some Nanotyrannus bones that we collected in Jordan, Montana, May of 2016. We collected a rib, and we collected a vertebra, rib and a vertebra, and we thin sectioned those like I just showed you, and you can already see some of the black in there, can't you? So we found clots in Nanotyrannus. Again, this is a bright field picture, but I'm using both the UV and the bright field at the same time. So you see the light coming through the bone, and then you see the iron reacting. If you turn off the bottom light, it looks like this, and I kind of made it monochromatic so it's more easy to see. But all of this iron in here is returning a signal saying, I'm here and not here. See that? So Nanotyrannus is behaving the same way as all those Triceratops specimens did. Here's another shot of that. There it is, monochromatic. Look at all this beautiful iron just pooled in here. And it didn't cross the barrier into the bone. It didn't migrate into the bone. So what preserved the tissues if it wasn't the iron? This is from the rib. And so you see a beautiful bifurcation here in these canals. So blood vessels, blood veins, and nerves were traveling in here. And now you can see it reacting to the UV. You see a little point here at the end of this, and that shows up dramatically when you just do the epi-illumination. So we're getting really good corroboration here from all of our specimens that they are responding to this technique. So there's a lot more work to do. We want to analyze this. Someone was telling me, and I can't remember who it was, they said, I showed this work to a retired ER physician, and he started naming all the products in here. He had names for everything in there. So I really want to meet that guy. So now we have corroboration 200 miles away from each other of clots in 7 different organisms that are separated.